John Doe's. Smith reported. Authorities say some of Miami-Dade's most violent gang members are rounded up, including Corey Smith, leader of the John Does. Smith reportedly shot two rival drug dealers and arranged for the deaths of two others. Also arrested, Smith's top lieutenant, LaTravis Galashaw, charged with another drug dealer.
This story is about a group of hustlers and serial killers out of Miami, Florida. With the use of high-powered machinery, they were known for making their enemies flip when they got hit. In 1997, they silenced the female star witness for the prosecution 4 days before the trial was supposed to start, and this caught the attention of the FBI. Another associate did the unthinkable to 5 men in an apartment in Liberty City. In the end, the gangs fought amongst themselves and backdoored each other for power and money. When they were finally arrested, they told the prosecutors some of the deepest, darkest secrets about men they used to hustle with. This is the story of the John Doe organization. Some names have been changed.
Casings from 2 military-type assaults in broad daylight on a public street.
The only relation for sure is it's over. High-powered weapons are being used, and we have 3 people.
Authorities say the John Doe gang is engaged in a war that's taking place on the streets of Liberty City. In the mid-1990s, the streets of Miami was on fire. Different organizations made up of body snatchers and hustlers were fighting for territory so they could control the action in Overtown and Liberty City. The John Doe gang was one of those organizations that were major players in the world of violence. After one of the big dogs was arrested, a new leader took the spot, and his name is Corey. At 12 years old, Corey's brother became a victim of the streets. The next year, he lost his father. He would go on to earn his position among other gangsters and have lieutenants that answered to him. Back in '95, a man named Leon became a victim of the streets. Leon was a hustler, and he's been getting money off the streets for years. The problem was, his spot was taking money and customers away from another spot the John Does controlled, and this became an issue between him and them. Corey had a dream that Leon ran down on him and unloaded. He woke up and told his girlfriend that Leon wanted to get rid of him. That same day, Corey made up his mind and enlisted some of his soldiers. They came over, and he hopped in the passenger seat, put on a ski mask, and went looking for Leon. He wasn't hard to find because Leon was recovering from a recent attempt on his life, and he was still wearing a cast on his leg from those injuries, but when they found him chilling in front of a store, they unloaded. Leon was hit 11 times. He didn't make it. A man named Flex would later be arrested, then charged and found guilty of the crime, even though he was innocent. The year was '96, and Corey was now in control of Leon's territory. Halfway through the year, a man named Melvin broke the rules and said the wrong thing to one of the John Does. That person ran down on Melvin, and they ended up in front of one of the stash houses. That man unloaded 11 times. Melvin didn't make it. Another man would become a victim when 3 members of John Doe ran down on him. At the end of '96, a man named Dominique became a victim of the John Does. A woman would later testify that she saw Corey and Dominique arguing over money earlier that day. Then later that night, Dominique got hit multiple times above the neck. 3 witnesses saw who did it, but they were all warned to mind their own business. One of the witnesses, however, was convinced to talk to the prosecutors about what she saw. Her name was Cynthia. 2 months later, at the beginning of '97, a horrible crime shook Miami when 5 people in one apartment became victims at the hands of one man. According to investigators and prosecutors, a man named Calloway and his friend Clark decided to rob some local hustlers in an apartment near Little Haiti. Before getting there, they went to the market and picked up some gloves and ski mask. When they got to the apartment, Calloway pulled out on one of the guys in the parking lot and made him take them up to the apartment where the money and 4 other hustlers were getting something to eat. Calloway made all 5 men get on the floor and sent Clark to the store to get some duct tape. While Clark was at the store, Calloway kept the 5 men under pressure. Clark came back and they proceeded to use the duct tape, but they ran out, so Clark went back to the store. After they took all the money and the product, they knew they couldn't leave any witnesses. One by one, they did the unthinkable. Of the 5 men, none of them made it. The crime was so gruesome it got the attention of the mayor and federal officials. Miami-Dade Assistant State Attorney said he shot all 5 in the head and grabbed what he could find. After months of investigation, the case went cold. Another prominent member of the John Does, a man named Lil Bo, was charged with attempted first-degree murder of a man named Lawrence. At the same time, a group of men was on the hunt for a man named Billy D. Billy went out with a few of his friends and drove them around before he got out the car. All of a sudden, someone unloaded into Billy's car. His friend named Damien that was sitting in Billy's car was hit. He didn't make it. Billy went to Damien's mother crying his heart out, feeling the guilt behind what just happened, knowing it was meant for him. At the time, everyone knew the man that did it. Members of John Doe organization didn't discriminate. Halfway through the year, a woman named Cynthia became a victim. This is the story behind what happened that day. About a year ago, a 19-year-old hustler named Dominique had beef with a member of the John Does. A group of men then ran him down and unloaded. He fell to the floor. Then they went 3 inches away from his and did the unthinkable. He didn't make it. More than 2 civilians witnessed the crime. A woman named Cynthia spoke with police, and she identified Corey as one of the people that was there when it happened. The government was seeking the ultimate penalty for the crime, and they needed the eyewitness to get those results, so she was convinced to testify against Corey in open court, and that turned out to be a big mistake. The trial was scheduled for July 28th. Lil Bo later testified that before the trial, Corey offered him more than $40,000 to get rid of the witness. He refused the job because Corey didn't want him to use heavy metal, and he had to make it look like it wasn't gang-related. Someone identified as her boyfriend then took the job. 5 days before trial started, Cynthia checked into a motel with her boyfriend. His name is Davis. The next day, Cynthia was found in the room with substances in her bloodstream. She didn't make it. Law enforcement stated that someone used the to do the job. The case would later be solved when Davis was arrested for another crime, and his fingerprints was compared to prints found on a mirror in the motel room. He was then arrested and prosecuted for what happened to the witness. At the end of the year, on New Year's Eve, the gangsters came out, and they came with heavy metal. Some came out to buckshots in the air to celebrate, and some came out to increase the body count. When the police was responding to a call, someone unloaded in the direction of the officer. It was later reported that a man named Charles was responsible. Charles admitted he let off a few rounds due to the celebration of New Year's Eve, but he denied trying to intentionally hurt a police officer. Charles pled guilty and was sentenced to 30 years in prison. A year would go by and no one would be arrested for what happened to those 5 men. The detective caseloads kept growing, and while investigating one of those cases, they got a break when they stumbled on fingerprints that matched one of the prints at the scene of the crime of what happened in that apartment more than a year ago. Those prints matched a man named Clark. After Clark spoke with investigators, he implicated Calloway. Calloway was arrested, and then he confessed to what he did to those 5 men. He said they were only there to steal money and product, but sometime during the crime it turned into 5 victims. Then he took the money and the product. A jury would later find both men guilty. Clark received a life sentence, and Calloway would be sentenced to the ultimate penalty for what he did. Around the time when Vonda's gang was arrested, a man named Jackie became a victim. Jackie did business with the John Does, but he broke one of the street rules. He got into some trouble, and when questioned by law enforcement, he told them someone from John Doe was the one that unloaded at a police officer on New Year's Eve. When the gang found out that he made a statement, a decision was made that Jackie had to go. On the last day of March, Jackie was hit 16 times by one of the serial killers from the gang. Lil Bo testified that Corey offered him $20,000 to take care of Jackie. Another John Doe member testified that Corey knew Jackie was a snitch because Corey showed him the paperwork of what Jackie said to law enforcement. He then testified he saw John Doe hitmen waiting in the alley. Then one of them called out to Jackie, and when Jackie got to the alley, they unloaded 16 times. One of the hitters confessed and said he did it because Corey ordered him to do it. Weeks later, Lil Bo becomes a fugitive. He was going to court to fight charges of attempted first-degree murder of a man named Lawrence. On the first day of the trial, he asked the judge for a new lawyer, then he somehow walks out of court and disappeared. Around this time, Anthony was at war with other lieutenants of the gang and would end up leaving and starting his own gang. The next month, Lil Bo was named a suspect in another incident where he tried to silence a man over an argument about a woman. By this time, the John Does and Lil Bo were enemies, so they put a bounty on Lil Bo's head, and someone tried to collect when they saw him outside a club and unloaded. Lil Bo survived, but his friend didn't make it. Lil Bo would continue to run the streets, plus, now he was a suspect in the hit on Jackson, which was a fight over a female. Jackson was hit multiple times, including in the face. He survived.
This is a small group of very dangerous, highly armed individuals who need to be apprehended, who need to be taken off the streets so that peace and calm can return to that area.
In June of 1998, one of the John Doe lieutenants sent some hitters to a club where they knew Lil Bo would be located. When Bo left the club, men came out of nowhere and unloaded some high-powered machines in his direction. He survived, but his friend was hit. He didn't make it. The guy that drove the John Doe hitmen to the location later testified and explained to the judge who did what and when they did it. Halfway through the year, another worker for the John Does was hit by his own gang. A man named Marlon, who worked for the John Does, ended up breaking some of the rules. One of the lieutenants thought he should pay for what he did, so they went on a mission, and when they found him, they unloaded. Marlon was hit in the back. He survived, but lost the ability to move anything below his neck. He was now a quadriplegic. A month would pass by, and he would succumb to his injuries. That same summer, Lil Bo officially was at war with his old friends, the John Does. I'll talk more about that in a different video, but that war had so many slugs going into walls of people houses that some residents would sleep in bathtubs or sleep on the floor to avoid getting hit in their sleep.
At a news conference earlier today, police expressed grave concern over what they described as nothing short of a war being fought in the Liberty City area of Miami that has already left 12 people dead since August.
Early November of '98, Corey, the leader of the John Doe gang, was arrested. They searched his room and his mother's house, where they found weapons, ammunition, $180,000 cash, body armor, residue on the kitchen stove, and product fresh off the boat from South America. That wasn't all. As the investigators continued searching his bedroom, they found something disturbing. The investigators found a police report for Dominique. Dominique was the victim in the case where Cynthia was the star witness for the prosecution against Corey, but she also became a victim 4 days before trial.
Authorities say some of Miami-Dade's most violent gang members are rounded up, including Corey Smith, leader of the John Does. Smith reportedly and 2 rival drug dealers and arranged for the deaths of 2 others. Also arrested, Smith's top lieutenant, LaTravis Galashaw, charged with another drug dealer.
With the leader now arrested, the infighting between John Doe's lieutenants and other gangsters, like Lil Bo, escalated, and the streets remained dangerous. Innocent civilians from 6 months old to 60 years old were getting hit. The streets of Liberty City was simply too dangerous for civilians and the family members of the opposing gangs. Pastors and ministers were getting hit, so the churches would have less services and stay closed on most days of the week. A few weeks later, Lil Bo's female friend was hit. Her name was Angel. Moments after she left Lil Bo, members of John Doe followed her while she was in her car. Since they couldn't get to Lil Bo, they got to her. Her car was hit 27 times with a high-powered machine that left a crime scene too gruesome to talk about. 2 men associated with the John Does would later confess to the crime. It was the end of the year, and everyone was in the Christmas spirit, but the war continued during the holidays. When one person got hit a few hours later, each gang would retaliate on someone related to the opposition, and this is how it went back and forth on Christmas Day. On Christmas Day, 15-year-old Jarvis of Opalaka was hit by 4 men with ski masks and assault that stepped out of a green '98 Ford Expedition. Jarvis took off running, but he didn't get far. Police suspect it involves the John Doe gang.
But the small-time dealer was chased down by 4 ski-masked men with many assault until they got him.
2 hours later, Mark, a suspected John Doe associate, was hit 7 times at close range. A video camera captured the whole thing as someone walked up to Mark and hit him 7 times at close range in front of the store. They then ran away. At the time, police suspected a man named Kier Walker as the one that did it. Kier was an associate of Lil Bo. With no time to waste, the next morning they retaliated and Kier's brother, Billy D. Walker, was found in his car. So in retaliation, that same night, 3 men ran down on a John Doe associate named Robinson. He was hit while he was riding his bike. He didn't make it. The year ended in horror. Lil Bo would then be captured by law enforcement and taken to headquarters. The new year was here, and it's now 1999. Vonda's gang were all locked up, and so was most of the Booby Boys. Now it was time for the John Doe organization to suffer the same fate. So after more than a year-long investigation, state and federal law enforcement arrested members of the John Doe and the Cloud9 gang. The fight for territory and power was over. These gangs would never be the same. The streets of Overtown and Liberty City was changing. It also is the first step to providing closure for the victims and the families who have suffered at the hands of this organization. April '99 was the first month without a body since 1997. The next month, the leader of the Booby Boys was arrested. As for the members of the John Does, all the people who hated them testified for the prosecution over a 6-week period. The state called 80 witnesses. The defense called 1 witness. During the trial, Corey's girlfriend would testify and confirm what he and his gang did to all those people. Many members of the gang turned against each other and told the prosecutors some of the gang's deepest, darkest secrets, with all the incriminating evidence from 2,000 hours of wiretaps and testimony of informants who connected Corey to the bodies. Remember the story about Leon? The guy that Corey had a dream about. Well, back then, in 1995, a man named Flex was arrested and sent to prison for that crime. But during the John Doe trial, the driver of the car gave first-hand testimony and told the judge who were the ones that did it. That testimony proved that the wrong man was in prison for that crime. In 2004, his case was vacated and Flex was released from prison. As for Corey and other members of the John Doe organization, they were sentenced to the death penalty, and the others received life sentences. This was the story of the John Doe gang.